Welcome to My Artist Friend, a podcast all about meeting the artist behind the art. My name is Becky Helms, and this is episode 2. Today, we are talking to my friend Carla of Shark City Slicker, and this conversation was so fun, y'all. She talks about her very intentional, creative choices in her work and in her life. I have never met such a well-rounded creative person. She has so many different pursuits beyond her business that really help to fulfill her life. And we also talk a lot about TV and Fast and the Furious, and it's just a really great conversation. So enjoy. Here's my artist friend, Carla. Hello, Carla. Welcome.
Hi. Hello.
To My Artist Friend podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Oh my God. I'm an artist and a friend.
Heck yeah, in real life and on the internet.
No, totally.
I think, did we meet online or did I see you first at Staple? I can't remember.
My earliest memory of Becky Helms / the Pink Samurai is one of the pin-centric events in Austin that I think you might have coordinated yourself.
Yes.
Because I remember shopping at your booth, and then I remember asking you about, what's a good first step to make pins? And that's when you referred me across the aisle to Jessica Watkins and the pin department.
Heck
and
yes.
So I remember that event distinctly. There may have been other occurrences, but I think that's the first time I actually connected.
I think that was the very first, because we had Flair Fest. We started, and it was 2016, 2017, and Lauren of the Burlap Bag would always host it for us. And that first year, it was when they were in this little house off of Guadalupe.
Yes,
and,
that's what I remember.
Yeah, because I remember Jess was there, and I was like, oh, I know who to send you to.
And I remember
she did my first ones.
For sure. And I remember, that was the timeline around when I started collecting pins. And then I also remember you had your denim vest with all your pins on it. So I just have that very distinct visual. You were set up by a window.
Yes. Yeah, that was the very first one. That was also coincidentally the first time I had been away from my son after giving birth for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And it was really weird. It was an interesting day for me emotionally.
Transition.
I know, right? But that was so fun because we had a handful of people from around the area who did pins and all kinds of prints and stuff. I think that was kind of in the beginning of the big pin boom that happened around then. So we did it a couple more times. But that's
that
awesome.
Event, that Flair Fest was I remember getting my own little pin haul that I came back and I started my first corkboard. And that was the first group of dozen or so pins that I collected was at that event, including your catacorn pin, which is, and the way my boards are organized is that they're not organized. It's just chronologically they're filled in. So I know which board, which corner starts, and then it goes the timeline of my collecting.
That is so cool because I can see your collection behind you. Yeah. We'll have video up on socials and YouTube and things like that. But
you up. So this board at the very top, you might recognize your tree at the top corner.
Yay! It's my pink tree with the cats in it.
Yeah, and then along that top edge, on the other side, you might see a swoop. That's your catacorn pin.
Oh my gosh!
And that's where I started filling it in, and that's my first board.
I love that so much. Yeah. We have a very overlapping pin collection because I'm I know all of those.
Yes.
So tell me your experience when you did start making pins. Were pins the first thing you sold, or did you do prints and things? Because you're such a prolific artist. I love your style, so I'd love to know.
Sounds so prestigious. I just think of myself as a chaos goblin. It's I never finish anything. No, but yeah, I guess going back, so I started my whole I guess the shop that I have right now. It started with stickers just because I've always been a big fan of street art. So not just murals, but also just, the stickers you see slapped on electrical boxes. And, some people consider it vandalism. I don't know. But some of those stickers are really well done. I realized it wasn't just people tagging. It was people drawing something and then turning it into a sticker. So it became this portable art form that you could see while you're waiting to cross the street. And so then I thought, like, I draw, maybe I can make stickers of my art. And my intention was to also like stick them all over the place. But then I realized, like, working with sticker printing places, they had this minimum order quantity of like 100. And it's like, well, it costs like $60 to print 100 stickers. I can't just be spending $60 every time I want to make
Yeah.
something. Like, what if I keep some and sell the rest? And then it just creates this cycle. So it was just this very practical purpose where it's like, oh, where do I sell it? I guess Etsy, that's where people sell stuff. And then it went from there. And then I started learning about pins. And it's like, oh, how do I make my own pin? And it's like, oh, well, I can't keep 100 of them. I guess I'll sell the rest on Etsy or whatever and do events. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And now it's like a thing.
I love that. I love the idea of creating for yourself first, like
Yes.
something that's fun for you to make, something that's fun for you to look at. Because sometimes I know there are some people that don't want to display their own artwork in their
Mhm.
house, but I'm like, I draw the things I like and I want to look at
Yeah.
it. So I'm going to put it up. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
weird
Like
to me.
your house should be like your safe space to look at your stuff. Like, just do it.
Yeah. Also, we should probably say 5 minutes in, your shop is called Shark City Slicker.
Yeah,
You
it's super
have
easy to say for anybody.
I love it. So I know Shark City is, could you explain the name for
Yes.
folks? Yeah.
Okay, so it's instead of like being like a mashup of two words, it's a mashup of like two phrases. So you have like city slicker, which is kind of like, for me, I come from the West Coast and I lived in Texas for, almost 15 years. So that was kind of like a reverse city slicker thing where I'm going from a big city to an upcoming city, I guess. I don't know. And then the Shark City is just kind of like an homage to San Jose, California, which is my hometown. And we have an NHL team here called the San Jose Sharks. And so
Oh,
unofficially, Shark City refers to, this is Sharks territory. That's a slogan. That's here, Sharks territory. So it's like, oh, Shark City could go hand in hand. And then I just mashed them
yeah.
together, and it wasn't lost on me that it's not easy to say, because to this day when I do events, people will walk up to the table and then they'll, like, instead of looking at the product, they'll look at the banner and be like, Shark City Slicker.
It's
And it's
like
like,
a tongue
and I'm
twister.
like, I feel like I'm just promoting literacy at this point. So it's like, I'm not changing it. Thanks for reading it.
No. Also, anything that makes someone pause at your booth for a minute,
Mm,
you can reel them in.
no, good point.
Absolutely. I love your displays and everything too. It's always so bright and fun. And like, I feel like every time I went to Staple, I could like pick you out. I think it's mostly because your style is like that. It's so bright and fun. And then it seems like your displays kind of come
Yeah,
from
no,
that.
I appreciate that so much, because my display is something I have to like. I go through like a mini like panic every time I do a show, because I have to practice the display. Like, oh, I have like
Yes.
20 more stickers, and I need to figure out how to work those in.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's always like a struggle. Like, how do I organize this? Because with so many small items, it's easy for something to look cluttered and for stuff to get
Yeah.
lost visually. And then like, I really like with other vendors, I love how they use like the wooden trays and wooden displays looks, but that wouldn't work for me. Like, it would just,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, it just wouldn't work. So it's like, okay, maybe I can just like put this over here and have a white background there, and I hope that maybe someone stops to look at it. But I think the initial test is like, would I be okay, like, after I set up this practice display, would I be okay setting this up in front of people who are going to look
Yeah.
at it? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I can live with that. It's fine.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things when you're setting up because I would have the panic. I would set it up, beforehand
Yes.
and be like, "Yes, I have a plan." And then you get there and then on the day, it's like who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, no.
The
Yeah,
chaos like right before it opens.
oh my gosh, yeah. And then it's like, I've had situations where like I get there early, like just like anybody else, but then it's like,
Mhm.
because I stay stuck on one thing, I'm still like setting up my display as shoppers are coming into the venue. And ultimately like, they'll stop and look at other stuff first, but
Yeah.
it's not a good feeling to rush.
It's no, it's stress. I had to stop. Well, once I had Emmett, I stopped doing shows, but even
Yeah,
before then I was like, I don't know if my nervous system can take this anymore.
it's a lot. Yeah.
I think it takes a special person to be on the show circuit for
Oh, for sure.
sure.
Yeah. There's folks I've run into here in the Bay Area already where it's like their whole livelihood is based on their business. So they do not just shows in the area, but they'll travel to other states in their car, like loaded, and just do that.
Mhm.
It's like you are a warrior. I do not,
Yes.
like, my back cannot handle that.
I know, right? But
Yeah.
it's awesome. Some people love it. Some people, are extroverted and can
Oh, for sure.
can
I
power through.
I think it's like a nice way to get like a sense of adventure because like for me personally, like I'm not a big traveler, but when I do, I like to feel like I have a job to do at my destination. So I
Mhm.
think like for them it's like, hey, we're gonna go explore these cities, but also we have an event here where we can make money. So
Yeah.
you know,
I think that's awesome. I love the idea of like I want to go to this place, but I need a purpose.
because in that way, like you feel like if I don't have a direction or something like that I need to get done, I just
Mhm.
like I lose motivation. I feel like I
Mhm.
have no direction, and that feeling drives me nuts. But if it's
Yeah.
something like go to the specific art store on a specific street and find the specific color marker, like that's a task. I'll go do it.
Yeah, I am very task oriented. And like I found out pretty quickly when I started like really working for myself full
Yeah.
time that I need a schedule. I
Mhm.
need a plan.
Yeah.
Like I can divert from the plan for sure, but I need a schedule for my day and I
Yes.
cannot have Netflix on for any reason.
Okay,
So
so
all go downhill.
so you're describing like the struggle I had last night because right now I'm working like part time as like a business intelligence contractor. So it's part
Hmm.
time. I mostly kind of work during their hours, but
Hmm.
yesterday I did hours in the evening, and it's like, oh, I'll finish like the 1989 Batman movie because this is my
Nice.
first time rewatching it as an adult
Yeah,
because I guess I'm in love with Michael Keaton again.
that's
But
fair. That's totally fair.
I was watching the movie and I was like trying to focus on my dual monitor setup and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like I
No,
had to pause the movie, do like 5 minutes of work, watch a minute of the movie, and it's like this is hard. So I just turned it off.
I can't like unless it was like grading pins or doing something like
Yes.
super monotonous, but
Mhm.
even like counting, my brain was like, no ma'am. You
Oh, for sure.
cannot do two things at once.
Yeah, no, I think our brains are synced on that where it's like you need focus.
I think so too. I wonder if it's a Scorpio thing because we're definitely both Scorpios too. So maybe.
Yeah. I wonder like at this point since there's like so much more vocabulary around like neurodiversity and stuff, I wonder it's like do I have something and we just like never knew?
Look,
I don't know,
I
but that's just me.
truly I see all those shirts and hats that are like undiagnosed, but I'm pretty sure.
It's like do you want to be sure?
I know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think I gotta talk to somebody because I think it would I don't know if it would do much for me now other than like I would know for sure.
Yeah.
But now, like, you're on Instagram long enough and then I'm down the neurodivergent
Oh yeah.
algorithm and I'm like, oh, that didn't take long.
Yeah, I'll be like, "Oh my God, this is so me." Next reel, this is so me. Get to a reel where they have like an extreme symptom. It's like, nah, I don't have it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like, and
right.
then it's like, I don't know, maybe I do. I
Yeah.
can't focus sometimes, but isn't that everybody?
I know it's like how much is it like the collective stress of living in society right now?
Yes.
And how much of it is actual like neurodivergence that was like passed down genetically?
The hard part too, because it's like I I feel like I have well, my hours that I operate are, I run with society. I go to bed at a certain time. I wake up at a certain time, but I'm always tired, so maybe that's what's messing me
Yeah.
up. It's hard. It's hard to know.
Yeah, I saw a thing the other day that said that women need more sleep than
Mm,
men, just in general,
okay.
because of the way our hormones cycle through our bodies. So
Interesting.
like we need like a good 8 to 10 hours.
10.
So I know. And they're like, everybody's different. I'm like, well, that doesn't help,
Can
but
you know
lady,
about
I'm like a grandma. I go to bed at like 9:30 now. I'm like, lights out. I gotta go.
I wish I could do that. I start getting ready for bed at like 9:30, but then I don't actually make it to bed till like 10:30. And then it's like, oh, I need to catch up on my Pokemon Go and my Monopoly Go. And oh, I have this one thing I wanted to look up the prices of. And it's like, oh, I need to like check this and that. And oh, I guess I'll just like check for jobs on LinkedIn or something. And it's like, this is computer work. Why am I doing this on my phone? And then by then
Yeah,
it's like midnight.
midnight. Yes. No, I can't. I started a long time ago having this very specific like bedtime routine. And
Okay.
like if the phone is on next to me, it's
Mhm.
all over. So like I have to put it down and like just you're plugged in, I don't touch you. Because if I look at it again, Instagram is open and Lord knows how long it's gonna be until I go to bed. But I do like I put the phone away. I write in a journal. I have like a little moleskin, a little
Cool.
lecture, and I write one little page like today this happened, blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
and then I shut it because my brain is like I've turned the page on the day is over, and then I read a book,
Mm.
and then I go to bed at 9:30 because I'm a party animal.
It's very symbolic, though. It's like once it physically closes, like that's it.
Yeah, there's something about it in my brain. It just feels like, okay, day is done. And then, because my brain will, like, oh, I've got to look a thing up. Oh, I've got to
Yeah.
make a note. Oh, I've got to do blah, blah, blah. But if I just like write this stuff down, or if I have like, sometimes I'll have a notepad by my bed. So if I have an idea, I'll
Nice.
write it down and just have it done. And then it's just better because I get it out
Yeah.
of my head. Otherwise, it'll just stay circling all night, you know?
I might have to adopt some of that because yeah, I can like think I can imagine like the closing of the journal is kind of the same as like tugging the light switch to turn off the light,
Yeah.
like the equivalent of that. Yeah, I might need to put some
Yeah.
of that into practice. Thank you.
It's fun. Yeah, I like it because I'm not expecting myself to write like a ton of stuff, and I'm
Mm.
not doing any like soul searching. I'm like literally just
Yeah,
saying, like, today I went to the doctor's and this
yeah.
and that, and I made this for dinner. And it's like very rudimentary.
Hmm.
And in the morning, I do my morning pages.
Oh, I've heard of these morning pages, but I never knew what like where did it come from?
Oh, it's from this book called The Artist Way.
Okay.
And it's like this 12-week sort of program for artists of
Mm,
all genres, mediums, anything, to
yeah.
kind of like hone their craft. I have
Okay.
never finished it.
Maybe you're not supposed to. I don't know.
But the main tenets were kind of like she was like, do morning pages, write 3 pages, doesn't matter what it is, even if you're just writing like I don't know what to write over and over and over again. It
Yeah.
just kind of like gets your brain going, and you can kind of get a bunch of the junk that's in there out first
Okay.
thing in the morning, and then just kind of be done with it. She's like, you don't have to keep these for notes. You can burn them later if you want to. Like you don't
Nice.
have to, like, it's just to get the junk out of your head. And then the other thing she really talks about is going on a weekly artist date where you just kind
Oh,
of take yourself out to go do something creative. And it could be absolutely anything, but she's like, it's non negotiable. So I usually just go to the thrift store.
that's so cool. And it's just like about
Make it
getting
easy.
yourself like out in the world.
Yeah, and like seeing things that are different and not just kind of like sticking to your main. Like you can go to a museum and sketch some paintings, or you can go to just walk around in a garden and look at nature. And it's like getting inspiration from other things that you might
Yeah.
not, that might not be in your sphere. I kind of love it. Yeah, I never finished the book because you're supposed to do like there are these specific like journal entries to do and like things like each week. But I think just the morning pages alone, I have a just like a big notebook, and I just do one page because
Cool.
I have a kid. I'm like I can't get up an
Yeah, you've got
hour
stuff
earlier
to
than ever. Like, but yeah, I just like write a page, and it's really fun. And a lot of times it's just like me kind of like gassing myself up for the day.
yeah,
You
what you have
know,
to do.
right?
But I do like the idea of being like just out in a different space because most
Yeah.
of like my creative endeavors are like here at home because like
Mm-hmm.
the sewing machine's here or like my art supplies are here or like the instruments are here. Like the one like main interest that I do have outside of the house is like sports, and so
Mm-hmm.
that forces me to like abide by the rules of the schedules of the skating rink. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I have a 9:30 Saturday class. Ugh, I guess I have to get up and go do it. But
Yeah.
that's more like I don't know. It's a very as creative as like skating looks to people. It's a very technical sport, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like there's not much in like creative inspiration while I'm doing it. So I need to push
Mm.
myself out further.
Yeah. How did you get into skating? Did you start that in Austin? Because I think that's such an interesting hobby to pick up because I cannot skate in any way, shape, or form. And I think it's really cool if people can.
Yeah, so like it's kind of like a weird like it's kind of like a destination after many years of trying out different sports because
Yeah.
nature, like I like being active, but I don't like exercise. So during my
Mm.
20s, I was like, I did like rec flag football, I did rec volleyball, I tried like working out at home. Like I just needed something to like help me like remain active, but nothing
Yeah.
was sticking
Mm.
because even though I love volleyball, I joined like this thing called like Austin Sports and Social Club, and I joined like the most casual level because it gets more competitive, like depending on the level.
Mm.
And even at the most casual level, I was still encountering people that were like, I was the captain of my high school team. And then they'd like
Oh
make it
Lord.
like, like you people suck. I'm done with it. And yeah, so it's like, okay, well, what can I do? And it was just one of those things where I was like falling asleep and it's like, what can I try next? I need something to stick with. And then like this part of my brain was like, well, what have you always wanted to learn? It's like, figure skating. And it's like, okay,
Mm.
do it. And it's like, at that point, you have a big girl job, you have some extra cash. So I got
Oh.
on my phone, which shouldn't do when I'm in bed, but got on my
Yeah, well.
phone, found the local rink in Austin had adult learn to skate classes. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, there's one of them's got to start in like a month from now. So I'll use this month to just get on the ice like during public sessions and just like be there and like move on my own. And then by the time class starts, it's not completely like crazy to me. Uh,
Yeah.
because before then I'd only been well, I'd done some skating. So I'm from San Jose. I'm from here, so I went to San Jose State, and part of our PE class or our PE program was you pick like a class around a sport, and then that's like your PE credits.
Huh.
So I first did ice hockey without ever knowing how to skate.
Oh
I
my
just
God.
I figured, oh, maybe I could just like get it, and I eventually got it, but like those skates weren't like super comfortable, and then I had like
Yeah.
gear on, and so it's like, okay, I'm not a very strong skater. Maybe for my second PE credit, I'll just take intro to like figure skating, and then I did that, and that's just like learning how to hold your own. But between then being like 17, 18 years old, and then returning to like skating at 32, like it had been
Mm.
a while. Like I needed to learn
Yeah.
all over again. And yeah, at this point, I've been skating for almost 6 years now, and do it almost every week, at least twice a week if I can, maybe 3 times, depending on what life is throwing at me.
That is so awesome. I love that you just like put yourself out there too. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of overthinking. You're just like, you know what? I want to do this. Let's look it up and just do it. And I think I struggle with that for sure because I will waffle all day, months. Like the the fact that we're even talking right now and like doing this, it's like it's a big deal. This is growth for me.
Well, yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah.
things where it's like you kind of have to learn that, even though you have a support system in your life, there are situations like that where it's like, okay, this activity that involves me like moving my physical body, the only
Hmm.
person who could propel me into that is physically and literally myself. Like,
Yeah.
so like I have to get up in the morning, get in the car, drive to the rink, get out of the car, walk into the rink, put on the skates. And it's like, even for me now, like that I've been skating for this long, like whenever I sign up for a public session, I just don't know how crowded it's gonna be. So I get a little bit of anxiety where it's like
Yeah.
there have been a couple times where I walked into the rink back in Austin because it's just like one small facility and
Yeah.
it's been too busy and I just walked right back out. And sometimes it was prepaid, like I'd already paid the $12. Other times no, but it's like I can't handle this right now, and then I leave. But now it's a little better because it's like, oh, I do need to practice. Like, this is like a task I have to do. Once again, going back to the task thing,
Yeah.
like I have
Yeah.
to practice, I have to work on this one thing. And what you realize is in like individual sports like that,
Hmm.
when you're on the ice working on your thing, you kind of sometimes, well, in my case, you get this idea that people are looking at you. And then it's like, no, like everyone's just kind of in their own bubble. Like everyone's just working on their thing. Like newbies are
Yeah.
working on just trying to like not eat it on the ice, and
That would be me.
if skiers are just trying to get something down so their coach doesn't reprimand them. Like everyone's
Yeah.
just in their lane, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think that's also kind of a lesson just in life when you start feeling self conscious about
Yeah,
things and like worried about what people are thinking about you. And it's like, I promise you, people are thinking about themselves way
Yes.
more than they're thinking about
Yes.
you.
Please be self-centered and do not think about me when I do
Yeah.
things in public.
Right. Do
Please.
not perceive me.
I've been seeing
That's
a lot of that slogan lately too, and it's like, oh, it's not just us. Okay.
yeah, like I completely understand. There's so many times it's like the ebb and flow of like just life for me. Well, I'll feel good putting myself out there and talking to people and doing all this stuff, and then it's almost like this crash where it's like, you know what? I don't want to exist on the internet anymore.
Hmm.
I just want to hide and live my life. But then I'm like, well, I kind of miss people, so well, let's get back online.
Yeah, and I think like because just like doing all of that, like you having your presence online or like me going consistently to the rink, it's like fueled by this underlying level of stress, like good stress,
Mhm.
but it's still stress. So at
Yeah,
some point, it is going to take a toll where it's like, oh, I need to be offline for like a week, or you're like,
yeah,
oh, maybe I just need to like sleep in today and not go skate, and things like that.
yeah. Knowing your body, knowing your limits, and like finding that balance can be really difficult, but not like beating yourself up when you feel like, oh no, I actually do need to rest now. I
Hmm.
like it's okay that I don't post a thing today.
Yeah,
It's okay that I skip this one lesson because I do think I need to recharge, and as long as you can still kind of propel yourself forward afterwards.
I'm sure.
I think that is a huge lesson.
Yeah,
You have
and
so many fun extracurriculars, I feel like. Do because like you said, you have your instruments, you play music
mhm.
on top of everything too. I feel like you're such a well-rounded creative.
Oh, thank you. And I feel like, yeah, like every few years I do an evaluation where it's like, like with the activities I do now, because I am a child-free person, and I
Mhm.
think, I think it'll stay that way. But like, is my life full? Like,
Mm.
with what I do now, like what else can I bring in? And so, yeah, like I do an evaluation. It's like, okay, like with skating, that gets me my exercise. Music, I've done my whole life. It's just because I've always been like a bedroom musician. Like I don't talk about it or
Yeah.
share it. Like I'm barely getting to the point where I'm like setting aside time to like at least document stuff with like scratchy recordings. Um, and then there's like sewing now, which is like it's fun. It's an activity. It's as creative or as technical as you want it to be, but I like that it can produce practical things like quilts, blankets. Um, and then like the shop has like, or Shark City Slicker has enabled me to like join communities and make friends like yourself. And
Yeah.
so it's like that's like sometimes it's just not about the art or completely about the art. It's also that it's
Mhm.
like a way to connect with people, which is for me as an introvert,
Yeah.
other people is something I don't think about often. Well, kind of that's a bad way to word it. I think about society and how sad it is all the time. But kind of like, I don't prioritize like going out and like making friends, but through
Mhm.
those avenues I'm able to without having to like, you know, put myself through the grind of like networking and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and you know that the people that you are around like get it, like you know that they're into the same things you're into because you're in these spaces together. And I think that's one of the things I missed so much about not having a shop because I would talk to my shop friends all the time and I would talk to my customers all the time. And now it's like, I'm just in my house. Look what I'm wearing. I don't know. Like it was strange. So I,
That's
I miss the creative community of it all,
yeah. And I think like your outfit videos, like they are creative because like the thing is like with creativity, like it's like an outward expression, right? So
Yeah.
it could be like your clothes, tattoos, like physical art that you're making. It's once it's out of your brain, it's like out there in the world.
Yeah.
And so even though like you're wearing your clothes and doing your thing throughout the day, you're still adding imagery to other people's worlds as they go about their day. So
Oh
it's
my
it's
gosh.
well linked.
I love that. I love that so much. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing one of your pins
Oh my gosh,
today.
thank you. I'm honored. I made it to the coat. Yeah,
I told you, I love your work. I'm
thank
like
you.
obsessed with
Likewise.
it. It's
No,
just it's so fun and so free. I think it's really cool that you've made this kind of like intentionally well-rounded creative life. Like the things you get out of each project seem different, but so
Mhm.
fulfilling in their own ways. Like you were such an inspiration when I was getting into quilting because I
Wow.
was like, I want to make something physical again.
Yeah.
And I've always sewed and I did quilting a long like years and years ago. And I was like, I think this would be fun. And like you and my Aunt Dee do a lot of quilting.
Nice.
And I looked to you too because the colors that you found, and like all of the fabric that you find, I'm just like, I need all of it. It's all just so pretty. And for anyone watching or listening, Shark City Stitcher is your sewing account. I
It
think
is.
it's so smart. It's brilliant. But oh my gosh, it's so fun watching like what you make. And it really is. You've been such a like I have my first little quilt that I
That looks
made,
so good.
and it was from the tutorials that you sent me. You were like, look at these
Yeah.
little charm packs and follow this tutorial. And I said, okay,
Yeah, no,
I
that's
have a
incredible.
quilt.
And yeah, I love the fabrics you chose too. Like they're very you, kind of like
Oh my
the
gosh.
pastel primary colors.
Yeah. Oh, when I found, and it's all candy related. And I was like,
Oh, heck yeah.
this is real cute. That Ruby Star Society cannot do
Yes.
wrong for me.
Oh, for
Like,
sure. Yeah, like I would not enjoy quilting or sewing as much if it weren't for like their fabrics, just
yeah.
because the color palettes and stuff. Because there's a lot of, like if you kind of spend some time in the quilting or sewing community on Instagram, you find that you have like your more traditional quilters who like, they have the chops, but maybe like their fabric picks are not quite for me. And then
Yeah.
you have kind of more modern quilters, which they're developing their technical chops as well, but they like, being a bit more playful, and that's also reflected in the fabrics that they pick and that they design.
Yeah. I just think it's so fun. And then of course my brain starts spinning. I'm like, well, I could design fabric for my own quilts and
Yes, you
then
can.
do
Why
all of
not?
this. But yeah, it's so fun. Yeah, I've done that one. I did a little one that I made for a friend's baby.
Oh,
And then I just did one that I like hand quilted
yes.
for my husband. Now I'm like, of course I've got this Halloween one that was supposed to be done by Halloween, but you know,
No,
what can,
you're
what can you
following
do?
like the lifestyle now, because yeah, like not finishing projects on time is part of being a quilter. I have so like there's this technique called I think English paper piecing, EPP.
Yes.
Use like this little
Yes.
template, and I've been making these little like Christmas hexagons since like October of last year, with
Oh
the
my God.
intention of like joining them together by that last December to make like a stocking. I
Mhm.
haven't finished them. Like I was like okay, I'll try this year, maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah. But they're waiting for you. They're ready at any moment. It's like my growing fabric stash. I'm like,
Oh
I
yeah,
could
that's
make a postage stamp quilt by Christmas. Sure, I could do that.
if you have like the one little block, you can use it as like a decoration.
Ooh, that's very true.
Yeah,
I
just a
like
little wall
that.
hanging.
That's what I love because this little the links you sent me were just to make a quilt out of what's it called? Charm packs.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that charm packs were a thing.
Yeah.
And it's basically just a package of like 5-inch squares, and then you
Yep.
can just pre cut. And I was like, I could just sew this together and just make a little thing that I can put up on the wall and like have it be done like quickly.
Yes.
And that felt really good because it's like, I like that you call it a slow craft because I think my brain needs that kind of like you've got to slow down. You can't finish everything immediately. You're not going to be good at everything right away. Like it's okay to practice and go slow. Um, but I still get a little bit more dopamine out of it because I can finish it in like a week.
Yes. And then I guess for anyone listening, if you're not familiar, like in the sewing world, like the pre-cut fabrics, we mentioned the charm pack. There's also mini charm packs, which are like 2.5-inch squares.
Yes.
You can use those to make like little coin pouches or something small. And then they have long pre-cut strips called jelly rolls, and then they have larger pre-cut squares
Love it.
called layer cakes. It's all very like cutesy names, but they all mean like something very specific. But they're fun. I like them. I think going back real quick to what you were
Yeah,
saying about
yeah,
like,
yeah.
building a community and like missing having like product to sell, have you considered like, because this might be a solution or just a suggestion, but um coordinating events in your area, like finding the local makers or finding like small businesses, and then maybe like setting up like markets or something, because like you're really good at just like the behind the scenes stuff, so that might be an option.
Oh, thank you. I think that would be really fun. They already have so much stuff going. Like Ann Arbor actually has like the largest curated street craft fair in the
Wow.
country, which is really cool. I got to go this year, and I did all this video, and I never put it up. I need to finally edit it together because I was just like ping ponging. We couldn't see all of it. Like there,
Oh,
I couldn't see it all. It was
yeah,
crazy. Like you turn down one street and there's like another branch that goes off and the other way, and like you go, okay, I'll go down this way, and then there's another branch, and it's like we were there for like 2 or 3 hours and
it's
we
cool.
couldn't see everything. It was really cool. But there are lots of like artsy kind of places around here. I just haven't taken the time to like plug in yet. And I think that's really
Yeah.
that's the thing. I don't know. I
Well, I
do go
mean,
chat with the shop owner down the street. There's this little place called the Fox and the Feather in
yeah.
downtown Dexter, outside of Ann
Ooh,
Arbor. So cute. Everything is super feminist. Everything is like progressive and hilarious and wonderful. And I go and chat with her sometimes.
that's cool. But it's also like a gradual thing, right? Like you can't talk to the whole town in one day.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like, as a newer resident, like kind of what I'm doing here in the Bay Area, just getting to
Mhm.
know it as an adult, is just, pick a new place each week and, check it out. And then if you happen to like, you know, talk to the main person there, then that's cool. That's like another person you've met, and it just keeps
Yeah. I love that. How do you like the creative community in San Jose as opposed to Austin? Are
going.
there big differences between the two?
It's interesting because like in both cities you have kind of like your more polished like studio artists who do like exhibits at galleries, and for me, I feel like I fall more on like the do it yourself, like scrappy side of the art
Heck yeah.
community, and that
I'm all
that
about it.
I think that rings true for both Austin and San Jose. But like in Austin, joining like Blue Genie and Staple, like you meet people, and like the people that are, you know, attracted to your art, you eventually like get to talk with them, like usually other artists. Um, and you kind of realize that you have like similar ways of operating and navigating
Hmm.
I guess the art community. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I work independently, I do this, da da da. I don't have an agent or anything. I just run my business,
Right.
etc., on my own. And then it's kind of the same thing here. Like I've joined some organizations who do like, well, I haven't joined the organization. I work with organizations who put on like pretty like well organized events, similar to Staple and sometimes similar to Blue Genie. And then through there, you find other artists who do multiple of those shows. And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you start recognizing each other. You realize that you have a lot in common in regards to how you approach art or approach your like business side of things. And
Yeah.
it's nice because at every event you'll have someone who's like ultra professional, they're living off of their art. It's they can't
Yeah.
afford to do like a trade with you because that's like their
Yeah.
money. And then where
Yeah.
for me it's like, I always have some extra stickers to trade. It's no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, that's
yeah,
me.
I think there's good parallels, but both situations have required like getting out of my head and out of my apartment and just
Hmm.
going and like physically doing a show and like signing up and setting up my display, because there is, aside from like the work and labor you put into producing your art, there is still like, oh, now I need to present it to the public. And so
Yeah.
everyone has that common thing that's like, it's not easy for everybody to like one like sign up, but then
Yeah.
to like follow through with the event. So I think knowing that we all know how to prepare for a show, it's like, yeah, like, that person's cool. They know the work it takes.
Yeah.
Um, then we can have more stuff in common to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, commiserating at a show. I feel like because that's what I did when I first moved to Austin was selling because it was before I did like pin back buttons and prints and I crocheted scarves. It was a whole thing. But that's where I met like my kind of core friends in Austin because, we'd see each other every weekend at whatever event.
Yeah, I think it's like an ever growing thing because when I lived here before I moved to Texas, like I moved away the same year that I graduated college. So I went from having my nose in books for 5 years straight, and then yes, I took 5 years.
Me too. Don't worry about
Like yes, it's been a while, okay. Um, but yeah, after that, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna go try and be independent in this other place. And then, so at that point, I wasn't a visually creative person. All I really
Mm,
did was like study and play music in my room. And it was when I went to Austin that it was like, oh, I kind of like drawing. I'm gonna try painting and do things like that. And like I did, and it's like I realized that there are like places that had like little art shows and like cafes, and I would join some of
yeah.
those. And then like once I stopped working on canvas and like transferred like my attention to stickers, then
Mm,
at that point I was like, oh, I have like products now. I guess I'll join
yeah.
like these markets. And so it was very gradual. But I if that existed when I still lived here, like when I was in college in San Jose, I didn't know about it, and I wouldn't have known about it because I wasn't an artist at that point.
Yeah.
But now that I'm coming back home and I have Shark City Slicker, the entity, with me, it's like, okay, where can we go? And then
Yeah.
you learn how to search for things better online, and you
Yeah.
find the communities and the events. It's like, okay, I maybe this wasn't here when I was here the last time, but it's here now, and good, I have a place to go.
Yeah, and you can jump right into it. I think that is really cool about being a creative person and having shops like we do that, like really no matter where you go, you can find those spaces to plug in, and like you said, you know what to look for, and those communities are a little bit easier to find once you're in it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and it's a big like relief because yeah, like you have your independent activities, but once you put it in a context where you can connect with people, it's real nice. Because I'm not like a big, social person. I don't go to like the club or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
We might not be fam in the club, but
yeah, like yeah,
I don't
we're
leave my
kind of
house.
the art market, but we like like I don't have any like networky social ways of
Yeah.
meeting people. It's always like you're like in a shared environment doing a shared task like skating at the rink. But yeah, I'm really grateful because it's easy for me to just like be at home and be content doing like what I do. But yeah, the whole practical thing that's like, well, I have extra stickers, I guess I have to go sell them somewhere, and then you make friends.
I love that. I love that you didn't go into it with the idea of like, I'm going to make this to sell. You're like, I just want to make this. I guess I could probably sell them and it can kind of fuel me making
Yeah,
more for me.
yeah, it's super practical. It is not inspirational in any way. It's just like, oh, like I don't want to keep 100 of my own stickers. I like my artwork, that's why I made it into a sticker, but I don't need 100. How do I get rid of them? And yeah, that's my business story.
I love it. I'm into it. Okay, so now I have to know what are
Yeah.
you what are you watching now? Or like reading or like what are you into?
Okay, so my reading has fallen by the wayside pretty bad. Like if I do read
That's fair.
something, it's like a technical book. So
Mhm.
right now I'm reading Introduction to Data Modeling because it lines
Ooh.
up with my career aspirations. So like in my day work professionally, I'm a data analyst. Um, it's kind of like there's this ongoing responsibility to just like know your stuff. And for me, like I want to go more into like building data systems rather than like doing statistical analysis. Like I don't, nah, I just want to build
Mhm.
stuff. So data modeling is just how to organize your data elements to be useful for like reporting and insights and stuff. So, yay, tech talk.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so yeah, so
it's necessary.
that's the book in play right now. And then for streaming, I kind of hop between like 3 to 4 things at the same time. So I'm watching Justified on Hulu for the first time,
Mhm.
which is Timothy Oliphant and Walton
Yeah.
Goggins. And it's kind of like it has this Western feel, but it's like super modern. Like in the first episode, like
Yeah.
he's wearing his cowboy hat, he's got his gun or whatever, but then he like
Mhm.
busts out his flip phone, and it's like, okay,
Weird.
you get used to that. But it's like
Yeah.
supposed to be present day, but it's a very
Yeah.
cowboy. He's a U.S. Marshal, so there's that
Yeah.
cowboy vibe. Um, and then I just finished up only the recent season of Only Murders in the Building, and that one's also on Hulu. On Apple TV Plus, I'm watching. Oh man, what's it called? Rashida Jones is in it. Sunny. It's called Sunny, and she lives in Japan and she has a robot named Sunny. But they're trying to
Oh
like
my God.
investigate her husband's death, and her
Mm,
husband happened to be involved with the programming of Sunny the robot. And it's really weird. It's like a
that
beautiful
sounds
scenery.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's like such a beautiful scenery, but the storyline is so grim. So it's like, oh man, like I can't be distracted by all the cool like things because the plot. Um,
Yeah.
and then I've been watching a competitive show called Next Level Chef. It's one of those Gordon Ramsay shows, but it's
Oh, oh yeah.
they have this physical structure inside the studio. It's 3 levels. And so you have the
Mm,
bottom level is your basement kitchen, your
hmm.
middle level is like your generic commercial kitchen, and then your top level is like your high end kitchen. And so Gordon and his 2 chef people, they each have their own teams of competitors. And it's like, oh, if you did bad in a contest, you have to cook in the basement kitchen. Well, you did really good. Go to the top kitchen. And there's like an elevator, and it's like, okay.
That is wild. The
It's so
production
stressful.
value.
Yeah, it's like it's insane. But it's also very stressful, so I can only watch
Yeah.
like a couple episodes at a
Yeah.
time. So I barely just finished season 3, which I think
Mm,
like goes back to like earlier this year.
hmm.
Yeah. But that's what I
That's
have
fun.
right now. And then also just rewatching like the Batman movies from start to finish.
I love that. I am a big Batman fan,
Yes, thank
so yeah. Andy and I love. We'll go back and watch, especially just generally old '80s action movies. Just in
yeah.
general, it's like one of our favorite things. I do have like a list of rom-coms and like chick flicks for him. So like sometimes we trade. I'm like, I will watch Commando for the first time, but now we need to watch Now and Then.
Oh my gosh. So that reminds me of this podcast I listen to. They're a comedy podcast, but it's called Newcomers, and it's 2 comedians.
Yes, I
Yes, yes.
love them.
Oh my gosh. So I'm doing like the sports. They did the Batman ones recently.
Hmm.
That's what inspired me to rewatch them. But their latest season is they watch sports movies. So they're watching like Rocky for the first time. They're watching
Amazing.
Karate Kid. And it's like, I'm realizing that like I don't recall seeing these movies. So maybe now I need to
Oh,
watch them as an adult. So,
yeah, absolutely. No, I love Newcomers. I watched or I listened to it when did they do Lord of the Rings? I think they
I,
did Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
they definitely did Star Wars.
Yeah.
I might have skipped the other season.
Yeah, some of them I'm like, oh, I don't know. But yeah, there's Nicole Byers is just hysterical
Oh, she's
always.
great.
Like,
Yes.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. My favorite season they did so far is the Fast and Furious season because she was all about it.
I have to tell you, I unironically love Fast and the Furious. I was just obsessed in
Yeah.
the early 2000s. I thought it was so great. We quote it all the time.
Oh my gosh. So my friend Renee, she runs Robo Roku, who's like another small business.
Yeah,
She loves the Fast and Furious movies, and I've only ever seen the first one. And
really.
in my brain, when I try to replay footage of it, I just see footage of like Gone in 60 Seconds. So it's like maybe I just need to go back and watch.
You
But
gotta
after the
watch it.
podcast, I feel like I've seen them,
You've
but I
seen it, yeah.
know I should. But my point that I didn't make was the people that I know have watched all the Fast and Furious movies are like
Mhm.
super into it. So it's like so funny to find out they're into it too. 'Cause it's not just a casual thing. Like first off, just to like
Yeah.
sit through the whole like go through the whole like saga of it, like you have to
Hmm.
be like dedicated.
It is. It is a saga. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen the new ones, but like, I need to catch up because I think the last two I missed, and they just keep getting more and more fantastical. It's just hilarious and wonderful. The first like three are kind of they're like my favorites. So that's
Mhm.
kind of like if I go back to rewatch, it's gonna be one of those.
Yeah. Ah, that's so cool. That's kind of
That's
like
funny.
me with the Matrix and the John Wick movies. Like I also like the
Ooh,
Mission Impossibles. Like those are my
yeah,
action franchises.
yeah.
Um,
Who knew?
no, I've made a discovery.
It's so
Expect a Vin Diesel face pillow for Christmas now.
oh my god. Amazing. Yeah, we I love it. Tokyo Drift I think is my favorite, which is weird because that one's like kind of out of the norm
I've heard
of
of that. Yeah.
it. But man, I love Han. Oh, okay. Anyway,
Yes, there were several episodes discussing Han.
Han
And
is very important to me. Okay.
yeah,
And I could not get behind. I'm like, Jason Statham cannot be a main character in this. It was a whole
oh my
thing. I'm so
goodness.
mad.
Yeah, I know they introduced Dwayne Johnson at some point. And it's like,
Mhm.
I, I feel like that's too much like action, bro. There's no finesse.
It's so funny. We heard that like there was some kind of count that like Vin Diesel and The Rock and like all of them were like who got the most punches in, who got the whatever. And we're like, okay,
Against each other?
yes.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. We heard it on the internet, but
Oh man. I'll have to
but
watch
yeah,
these for sure now.
yeah, it's pretty funny. Anyway,
Amazing.
well, thank you so much
Yes.
for chatting with me, Carla. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, is there anything that you have coming up? Anything that you want to tell people about? Any shows or product releases or just
Ooh.
holiday fun time?
Um, I don't know when this is going to go out, but I will be part of the San Jose Made Holiday Fair coming up in late November. So it's going to be
Awesome.
the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving. I think that's the
Okay.
29th and 30th, maybe. It's the last one in the calendar for November. But yeah, I'll be there both days and I'll be set up. So just, look for sharks.
Heck
And
yeah.
and then I'm on Instagram, Shark City Slicker. If you're into quilting/sewing, I'm at Shark City Stitcher. Um, so yeah, find me
I
and
love it.
hopefully you'll see something cool in there.
Awesome. Yay. Thank
For
you.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts because that is important and I really appreciate it. I'm also on Spotify, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I would love a comment, a like, anything like that would be much appreciated as I get this little podcast off the ground. And don't forget, I also have a Patreon that I'm still kind of trying to figure out, but it would be wonderful if that could help to support the podcast, keep it running. Y'all are amazing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, friends.